Are Prince Harry and Meghan Markle burning through their money 5 years almost post Mexit? The couple are living a very, very lavish lifestyle. They have a $14 million mansion. They demand a ridiculous 24-hour security apparatus that includes being chauffeured around probably one of the safest towns in California, Montecito, for around probably $2 to $3 million per year. The problem is that the couple is not pulling in enough to maintain this. And as I was punching through the actual numbers, I came to a stunning realization that not only do I think Harry and Meghan are dwindling their financial resources, but they've actually killed the golden goose. There is one person between the two of them that has actually made them a decent amount of money. The other one has not. And perhaps the answer that will surprise you. But as they purchase this house in Portugal, it comes more and more to mind. Can they maintain it? Or is their Portuguese home maybe an scapegoat to a potential loss of their Montecito mansion at some point? Because I have looked through all the numbers, the amount of money they need to maintain themselves per year, they must have an absolute smash hit with American Riviera Orchard, or they may lose the house. And we will go into it today. But if you guys haven't been to Royal News Network before, hello, my name is Brittany and I provide compelling royal commentary. So if you guys want to hit that subscribe button, I would absolutely love to have you back. We have a fun, amazing, and wonderful time here. And we will also be having yet again on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Crown Report, where we go over other royal news that may not make the usual program. Here we have Charles and Camilla, of course, in Australia. We have the upcoming Princess of Asturias Awards and Mary and Frederick in Germany. So if you guys want to check that out, again, it'll be 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday. And we do these weekly because it's just great to get to what is going on with the other royals, because there's more than just Harry and Meghan. And I also wanted to share real quickly yet again about Ana Lucia diamonds. I am checking out and wearing these gorgeous diamond earring hoops today, and I think these are absolutely stunning and such a classic piece. I'm really going for classic when it comes to my jewelry right now. Classic, eternal, that you can always wear, because there's something lovely about having something that you can wear every year, all year, every single time. And I love these diamond hoop ones. They are so amazing. So if you guys want to check these out, these are the largest size. And if you use code ROYAL20, you shall save 20%. And don't forget, obviously, Christmas is coming up. So think about that wish list. And Ana Lucia has a very exciting announcement coming out next week. So keep your eye on that. And of course, I will be sharing it with you as well. And like I said, if you use code ROYAL20 on their website, you shall save 20%, and it even works on sales stuff. So go ahead and check them out. So Harry and Meghan, are they headed for a financial catastrophe? I would argue actually yes. Now, I will preface this video by saying mostly this is my own opinion. I have gathered resources that give you a pretty good idea of how much money they're either worth or how much money they could bring in. And I am just sort of trying to come up to a logical conclusion, because I think we can all always learn something. But when they purchased this house in Portugal, I just remember thinking, I mean, I get it. It's an interesting news story. Although I will say that the golden visa that many people had subscribed to actually doesn't work for home purchases. So they would actually have to make an investment of like 500 grand into the country in order to get that golden visa. I don't think they have the capital to do it. I mean, even shocked that they purchased a house in Portugal, to be quite honest, because I don't think they have the money. They live a billionaire's lifestyle on a dwindling millionaire's salary, and they have one shot to make this work. One shot. If American Riviera Orchard is not a huge, smashing success, like I said, they will lose their house in Montecito. I would almost guarantee it. Because number one, and I found this truly interesting as I was doing some research for it, they probably actually barely could afford that house in the first place, even with the promises of the Netflix deal. So the article comes from The Cut, and it says Meghan Markle on the struggle of not being able to afford her $14 million mansion. And yes, they got a couple of deals that allowed them to actually make this purchase. But as we will go through in this video, you'll come to see pretty quickly that the amount of money they need to sustain themselves, their lifestyle, and this house is just probably not going to work at some point. So here's the quote. She adds that at first they were reluctant to view the place. They had seen it a lot, I guess, in their searches online, as they didn't have jobs and its price tag was a cool 14.65 million. We didn't have jobs. Suspect number one. So we were just not going to come and see this house. It wasn't possible. It's like when I was younger and you're window shopping. It's like, I don't want to go and look at all the things that I can't afford. That doesn't feel good. Now, I get that we all have a little house envy every once in a while, but they were able to make this purchase. But how much did they have to struggle to do it? Because she says they did everything they could to get the home, as it sparks feelings of joy and calm as soon as you enter it. It's healing. You feel free. And they could do this because of the brand deals they signed with Netflix and Spotify. And as we know, the Spotify deal is defunct because they failed to live up to their contracts, essentially. And so they've lost a lot of money. And we'll go into how much money they've probably potentially lost. And it's probably over half of what they could have earned. They have lost at least more than half of the money they could have pulled in. And we're talking almost $100 million because of their own failures here. But what's interesting about this house as well is that they didn't do any renovations for it. You will notice when celebrities purchase homes, even really nice homes, usually they almost demo the entire thing and redo it in their image. Harry and Meghan essentially kept the house as is. And that reflects to me is that they could barely afford the house to begin with, could not afford to do any renovations to change it even further. Now, maybe they just loved it as is and they didn't want to change anything. But I sort of highly doubt that. I imagine if they could, Meghan would have demoed the whole place and redone it. They didn't have the money for that. And I would guess they still don't have the money for that. So let's get into this. And this, again, I have gathered it through research, but also just sort of my guesstimates of what we've seen based on how they live their lifestyle. And so this is what they could have earned. Now, Harry probably came into the marriage and estimate he had $10 million from his mom. Let's say with inflation, he had like 15 to 20 million. Meghan came into the marriage, I would guess, with probably almost about nothing. I've always been of the opinion that Meghan Markle essentially spent most of her salary because she rented a house that was less than $1 million in Toronto. I don't think she was shuffling a lot of money away. I think most of her money went into PR. And she has always been somebody who is more interested in the veneer than actually doing the hard work. And so she was more interested in paying the public relations agency to get her where she needed to go rather than doing the hard work herself. So that is my personal opinion about where Meghan Markle came in. They've said about $5 million. I would say it's closer to 1 to 2 million. I don't think she came into that marriage really with anything. She was sort of on her last leg. She was aging out of Hollywood. She was a bad actress. And so she couldn't come into the marriage with much. So he had, let's say, 15 to 20 million. Let's give him a good cushion and getting 8 million more this year. And she came in there with essentially 1 to 2 million. So together they came in there with, let's say, at the most, $30 million. And that is a lot of money. That is a lot of money. And before they entered into their marriage, I think Harry spent probably at least some of that for sure. Because he got his mother's inheritance, I believe it was when he was about 24. And so I'm sure he spent some of it on things he wanted to do. And once they entered into the marriage, especially with, of course, what happened in terms of their financial backing being pulled, because like two dunderheads, they decided to tell their dad they were leaving or their boss they were leaving and didn't account for the fact that they wouldn't get severance because they quit. You don't get severance if you quit. You get severance if you're fired. You don't get severance if you quit. So the couple sort of all of a sudden were floundering because they were nincompoops. So let's say they had that much. Now, when it comes to spare, Harry could have made upwards of about $30 million. Now, how do we get this? So he got probably about a $20 million advance. It sold very well, so he probably made $6 to $7 million after that. Now, they've said that they're releasing a paperback and that'll generate more money. I don't think that's true, though, because what I think happened with Spare is that, yes, there was a huge amount of interest, but I think there are a lot of spare copies on the secondhand market, and the paperback's offering nothing else. So why would you buy the paperback if you already had the hardback? If you can get the hardback from the library or a secondhand bookstore for $5, I don't think anybody's going to purchase the paperback. And I think they overprinted the hardback, to be quite honest. That's my personal opinion. So $30 million. Now that sounds like a lot because You add that to the other 30 million, you get 60 million. But let's keep going. Now, at most, I would guess they made about $5 million from Spotify. Again, out of potentially 20 to 25 million. Why? Because the two nincompoops, and I call them nincompoops because I've created over 400 videos, and somehow they only, with all the resources in the world, could only create 12 podcast episodes. Actually, 13 technically. They did do one together, but Harry's podcast ideas apparently really, really sucked. And Meghan's podcast was really, really bad. So they didn't go anywhere. And although Spotify obviously licensed it to Lemonada to make money, I just don't think this thing is making a lot of money. And Meghan apparently is one of those people who cannot do two things at the same time. So even though she has this opportunity, she is going to sit and do nothing with the Lemonada deal and try to get American Riviera Orchard off the ground, even though she could cross promote. She doesn't want to do that. Apparently, again, business sense is something Meghan Markle nor Harry have. And then we have Netflix. Now, the Netflix deal could potentially net them $100 million. That has been always the rumor, 100 to 125 million. That's allegedly what the Netflix deal could have gotten them. I would argue, and this again is my personal opinion, they've only gained about $25 million from it. The reason is they had one hit and that was it. And it was only the hit they were guaranteed. It was about the royals. It was about their time in the royal family. That's the only thing people wanted. And that was successful. They've had two bombs, two catastrophic bombs. Again, I will just say this because I will never not say this if it comes up. My reaction to Harry's Heart of Invictus got 100,000 more views than Harry's Heart of Invictus. That is pathetic. That is absolutely 1,000% pathetic. And I wasn't trying to do that. I was just like, okay, I will react to it and share it and see where it goes. I didn't plan to do that well. He's got 300,000 views. Mine got 400,000 views. And I will say I got to the 400,000 in like a couple of weeks, and he had months and couldn't get more than 300. And between that and Live to Lead, which totally and completely bombed, they have gotten some money. That I think, imagine the way I understand Netflix deals work is that Netflix is covering some of the production budget. They make money as well. And they have to pay their staff via Netflix for those who are working on the Netflix stuff. And so anything in that realm, they make a chunk of change from. So because Live to Lead and Heart of Invictus bombed, they didn't get any bonus from that. They did get one from the Harry and Meghan reality TV show. How much, we don't know. Reality TV documentary type style, which is not as cost effective as other things. They even bought cheap stock pictures. For what it was such a cheap stock picture of a paparazzi guy in a car. I was like, oh man, guys, let's it was actually probably more supposed to be for like a private investigator. That's what that guy was doing. Anyways, so there are certain aspects of it that were not well done. They have two others in the works, and these ones are ones that they actually have to have production partners on. My supposition and theory has been is that Netflix said, okay, we let you do this 3 times. The one thing we all knew was a hit was a hit. But that wasn't because it was good. It was because of the content that it represented, which was an inside look at the monarchy. So because of that, we know this one was successful and was going to be successful. Your other stuff is crap. And you have to know it's crap. We know it's crap. So this time you have production partners because we can't have it be crap again. And I will argue, apparently, according to what we have heard, the Polo series that Harry has put together is awful. It's incredibly boring, which is not a surprise, as I would argue Live to Lead looked so incredibly nails on a chalkboard dull. I think it's something that you actually torture people with. I don't know. I never watched it, so I'm just joking. But when it comes to Heart of Invictus, there were some good moments of it, but a lot of bloat. They should have cut down, I think, on some of the people they focused on. There was actually some better people they should have focused on more instead of others. And so I think it was middling, to be honest. It wasn't a good documentary in my opinion. And I'm somebody who really likes documentaries. So I feel like I can say. So my theory is they've made about, let's say, $25 million from Netflix so far. Now that could go as high as 50. I think that's a stretch based on their output, to be honest. And now they also have to share their success with production partners. So if Polo or American Riviera Orchard series, whatever that happens to be titled, are successful, they'll have to cut the profits to themselves because they'll have to pay their production partners. So production partners will get a cut of their success now because, again, they failed so far. So overall, that amount totals to roughly $65 million they pulled in. And that's a lot. And if you add it to the other $30 million or so that Harry has, you're looking at like $95 million potentially that they're sitting on. A lot of money. But when you look at it, technically, if you add together what they should have gotten from Netflix and Spotify at least, and oh, I forgot to add, they probably made $5 million on other various enterprises. So better up, whatever lousy investments that Meghan Markle was making, because I think she's making crappy ones, maybe some brand sponsorships that we don't know about, something like that. Maybe they've made about $5 million. And I will say, Harry got a $20 million advance for Spare. Meghan got a $600,000 advance for the bench. So we all know whose bread is really being buttered. So overall, they probably made about 65 million. But what they could have made, and this again is post-Brexit. So we're not counting the inheritance here, just essentially what they could have made via Netflix, Spotify, other things. They could have made upwards of $155 million. So potentially they've left $90 million on the table because of sheer incompetence. They are utterly incompetent and I think broadly devoid of talent in what they're trying to do. And we see this reflected in the number. They've left $90 million on the table. $90 million. And all they had to do was make content. Interesting content. Guys, I could have like 12 podcasts going. Seriously. I could have a lot of channels. Like there are so many things that I want to do. I don't have the time for them. But if I had access to that, oh, you bet I would be using every cent of that $155 million to make as much as possible. And they're apparently unable to do that. So they've lost already, guys, $90 million. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to that $65 million, let's say about 20 plus million of dollars of it went to taxes because you do have to pay Uncle Sam and whatever Lord Sam is over there in the UK, you do have to pay them. $10 million, I believe, went to Archwell. Archwell is being funded by some sort of, I think, $10 million probably Harry got for his book. That would be my guess. And that is to avoid taxes. So I get it. It makes sense from a financial standpoint. So that's what I believe went to that. So, and then you also have, let's say, $5 million in business operations. I have no clue if that number is correct or not. I'm pulling that out of my behind. But let's say that's a comfy $5 million. It's potentially lost $35 million of that $65 million. So that leaves them with $30 million. Now, why does that matter? Because their yearly expenses are going to kill them. So these again are based on reports from the media. One of them is a funny speculation from me, but other ones are just sort of various what we can probably anticipate what's going on. So number one is probably $2 to $3 million on security, round the clock security. They don't need that level of security. They're not constitutionally relevant. And I think the quote unquote hatred they receive is more people annoyed by them, not anybody who actually wishes them harm. So I think it's an overreaction. Do they need security? Sometimes, yes, of course they do. Do they need a security guard to probably follow themselves and probably their children around 24/7? No, they do not, especially in a place like Montecito, which I would argue is probably one of the most safest cities in California. I have no idea if that's true, but I imagine she can drive around in her SUV without a security and be completely and utterly fine. I think it's narcissism and ego that drives this part of what they're paying for. Okay, so next is at least, and this is a pretty firm number, $146,000 in property taxes. So yes, their property taxes are in the six figures. They do live in California. So lot, but not too much. Now, I will say this one is a mix of several things, and I guess I could lump the property taxes into that. So they probably spend at least $2 million a year on various things connected to the house. This is the mortgage, household staff, so chefs, housekeepers, what have you, lawn maintenance, whatever, and general maintenance overall. A house that large, 18,000 square feet, you have a lot of maintenance. They have like an acre or two of land. That's a lot of stinking maintenance. And that'll run you into the six figures easy, easy. And then you add on insurance. That's the other thing I didn't add on at first. And their mortgage actually could be pushing just $2 million a year alone because I looked, and according to one report, if they went with an ARM 7 to 10 year mortgage, they could be paying upwards of $225,000 to $292,000 per month that they could be paying that. So that might actually be a low estimation. But this one just makes me laugh because they probably need to generate at least $5 million to maintain Meghan Markle. She strikes me as somebody as her ego gets overblown and overblown and overblown, she needs more and more and more and more to satiate it. And She and Harry are not bringing enough in to maintain what Meghan Markle wants to maintain. She wants probably about $5 million a year, I guess. No clue if that's true. That's probably an over an estimation. You could lump that in somewhat with the mortgage stuff, insurance, taxes, and everything. And I should add as well, when it comes to insurance, which I meant to, is that because of the high fire risk in California, some of the insurance companies are saying we're basically about to go bankrupt. And so they have to charge you like 50% of your mortgage or something in insurance or something to that effect. I can't quite remember how it works, but you are being charged through the butt for insurance in California. You are like it's pretty devastating. I know some insurance companies are about to leave. I know that's an issue with State Farm, something to that effect. So it's very, very serious, the situation, and people are just basically able to maintain. I believe actually right now you can't add any insurance with State Farm in California, at least for homes. That is my understanding. So, living in California has its troubles. Go anywhere else in the country, you'll find far easier living situations, and also you can buy a much bigger home at a better price. So, let's keep going. $1 million, I would say, in various expenses. I don't know what these would be for, but various things throughout the year. And then, although this could be lumped in with the $5 million in business, travels, trips, etc. So that we should probably merge those in. And I put that at $5 million. So let's just keep that at $5 million. So, and excise that 1 million. So we are looking at 5, 10, 15. So 2 and 3 million. $15 million per year to maintain their lifestyle. Now, again, that's probably an overestimation, but you're talking $2 to $3 million for security, $2 million plus a year in mortgage and stuff. Like, there's a lot of things. You have, again, this is an overestimated $5 million in maintaining Meghan Markle, but let's take that out of the equation. You're still left with $10 million a year just for their lifestyle. I didn't even calculate in taxes or anything like that, what they would have to pay there, because I don't really know. But let's say their expenses alone are $10 million a year. And over the last 5 years, they've only been able to generate $30 million minus taxes. They're overextended. Now, granted, obviously, they have Harry's inheritance to shore some of that up, but that's a huge loss. That amount to maintain is unsustainable. They can't do it. They can't do it. And they've also killed their golden goose. But let me bring in one more article because I saw this in Parade and I thought this was actually pretty good. Because it goes over Harry's net worth because it keeps growing in 2024. But again, it might keep growing, but can it equalize or exceed what their yearly lifestyle implicates in terms of what they have to pay? So it goes into here pretty well. So Harry's net worth, they say, is 60 million. And it has a couple of things that they estimate this on. So it's 60 million, bulk of which is being born into royalty, indirectly being born into royalty, with the deals that they're getting. So what I love about Parade says is that he's made $60 million thanks to his contracts and inheritance. However, it's important to note that he and his family of four don't exactly live cheaply. Now, this is just from Parade, and I don't think it's wrong. I don't think it's wrong. I think they have vastly overexpanded and overestimated what they could make because they did take out a $10 million mortgage. So that's a lot of money right there. And William is obviously much richer, worth more than $1 billion because of the Duchy of Cornwall. So Harry inherited from the Queen Mother a cool $8.5 million. And that, I believe, is the money that was used to purchase this house in Portugal. Obviously, the timing is exact, pretty much. He gets this money and he buys the house in Portugal. I don't know how much, but I would guess in the $500 to $1 million range. Although I would anticipate Meghan would probably push it to like $4 million or something like that. Because here is the very interesting thing about this whole Harry and Meghan financial situation, which all of a sudden dawned on me. And I was like, oh my gosh. I didn't think about this before. Because when it comes to their windfalls, the person in their dynamic that has actually been the most financially successful is Harry. And Harry and Meghan have set up a future where she's allegedly going to be the sole breadwinner with just American Riviera Orchard to her name. Yeah. She might work a little bit more than he does. Like, she actually at least could put a podcast together, but he's the cash cow. It's not her, it's him. And he's just basically thrown up his hands and said, "Work is too hard. I'm gonna leave it to you, hun." He's gonna essentially live as a kept man. He wants to be a philanthropist, but he doesn't have the money. We've gone over it. They're maybe spending upwards of $10 million a year just to maintain themselves. And they've brought in overall, you gotta think of taxes and everything, maybe $30 million over the last 4 years. And so, because of that, how are they gonna make money? How are they gonna maintain themselves? Because Meghan's American Riviera Orchard has one shot to be successful. And the sad thing is, Meghan Markle is not liked as well as Harry, and she doesn't have as much to sell as Harry. And because of that, they're really in a pickle here. This has to be successful. They have no other option. American Riviera Orchard must be an absolute success. Otherwise, they're screwed. They're absolutely 100% screwed because they cannot maintain their lives. They can't. They can't. There's just no way. I remember when they bought that house, I'm like, I think $3 to $5 million would be much more economical than almost $15 million. Yes, you get this massive house with all this privacy, but you've got to maintain the salary to keep that up. And they are dwindling resources. They are not only wanting to live a billionaire's lifestyle, but they have a dwindling millionaire's salary to go with it. And they can't do it. I don't think they can do it. And there's another interesting thing to consider about this as well is that Harry and Meghan might already know this. I found it interesting that they didn't film American Riviera Orchard in her home. Now, it's interesting and it's not interesting because of all the privacy concerns. I understand why, but I think it actually would do better if you could see her in her home. Not having that, I think, diminishes some of the impact somewhat. But here's why, maybe in part, they didn't do it. Because if they move, if they never did anything in the house to begin with, doesn't matter what they do in the future because they've already left. So if the show is successful and they can keep the house, and they may film something there. But if it's not successful and they can't keep the house, they never film there in the first place. So where does this go? But the overall problem is that Harry and Meghan need money, and Meghan is going to be an entrepreneur. That is her new career path, which is just silly. They don't have the capital for it. I genuinely do not think they have the capital for that. Not to mention the fact they probably need massive infusions of cash for ARO because they need to make product. And if they can't make product, I mean, granted, they can maybe use the Netflix money for that, but I feel like to a certain extent, that's a bit of a risk because they need the Netflix thing to make money. And if they make all this product that they can't sell, you run into a situation where you are incredibly screwed. You are incredibly screwed. It is wild to think how much they've shot themselves in the foot because they've forgotten the true breadwinner, which is not only Harry. Harry has obviously made infinitely more than she has. It came into the marriage with infinitely more than she has. But it's the royal family. The real people who have made Harry and Meghan you could call it financial success is the royal family. That's it. On their own, they've been failures broadly. On their own, they failed. With the royal family, though, that is how they've succeeded. Without the royals, they're toast. They're literal toast without the royals. And this is going to be a make it or break it for them. They've got a year to make American Riviera Orchard work, and they're already off to a terrible start. That Meghan launched it in March. It is now 7 months out with nothing in return, makes her look highly incompetent and goes along with the sheer incompetence that we've seen for years now from them. 4 years. It's not like one little thing. They've been incompetent for years now and it just keeps going and going and going. And people are not going to indulge it any longer. Because what they have failed to do in Hollywood, 150% as well, is prove that they have talent for anything. They may have talent somewhere, 100%. We all have innate talents in certain things, but it's not in content creation. It's not in entertainment. It is not in entrepreneurship. I still need to do a video explaining why I think Meghan's is a bad entrepreneur, but I truly believe she's not making good investment choices. Like, and her philosophy of I only invest in female businesses is going to shoot you in the foot at some point because you're going to miss out on a fantastic investment, male-led investment, and you can lose out on millions of dollars. But they've already lost out, guys, on $90+ million. $90 million they've lost. They are burning money. They could get there, they could be successful, but they've hindered themselves at every single turn. And I don't think buying a house in Portugal makes them look necessarily very good. It makes them look frivolous. And can they even sustain that one? Or will that be their escape hatch? Oh, Harry wants to be closer to his family. Oh, Portugal is kind of like California. It's a little bit easier there. Oh, they'll give us the security one, so we will hop over to Portugal. Or it could even be like a small condo. We don't know what the size of what they purchased. But if that report is true, that seems like a huge financial risk considering they have no clue how American Riviera Orchard is going to perform. They're spending their money before they've secured it. And I could be totally wrong, guys. This is just a general estimation, but I think $10 million a year to fund their lifestyles and their businesses is not out of the realm of possibility. And they're not bringing in that level of money right now. They're really not bringing it in. And at some point, that's not going to work anymore. I think they're already spending more than they're bringing in. And they have nothing. They have nothing except for one lone idea that may or may not be successful. And I think they're already counting their chickens before they're hatched. And I think it will be much to their detriment. So, guys, let me know what you think. Do you think all of this will lead to Meghan Markle making a memoir? Because I think she'll get a lot more for the memoir than she'll ever get for something as pedantic as the bench. So, guys, again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you appreciated it, and I shall see you guys very, very soon. Bye.